What if the path to higher consciousness wasn't a mystery, but an actual map you could follow?
In this podcast, we're decoding Alice Bailey's masterpiece, Initiation, Human and Solar, End to End.
I'm Vera.
I'm Owen.
This is the ultimate roadmap for soul evolution, and we're unpacking every single layer.
So last time we told everyone to have a pencil ready. This is the episode we meant.
This is the one, yeah. Because before this book, we'll say a single word about the path. Who walks it, where it goes, any of it. It stops and answers a different question first. What even is a human being? Like, what is this creature that's supposedly doing all the evolving?
Which sounds almost too basic, right? But when you think about it, it's the only sane place to start. You can't hand somebody a map of the journey without first showing them who's traveling.
Exactly. So today is the map of you. The front matter of the book, the section called The Constitution of Man, and then the first half of chapter 2, where she defines her terms. Initiation, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. The vocabulary the entire rest of the book is written in.
Good place to have the book open, this one.
Very much so. Okay, so if you've got the book, this section sits right at the front, before chapter 1 even starts. Most editions print it with a chart. The 7 planes of our solar system, with the human being laid out across them. And the premise of the whole book is sitting right there in that arrangement. You are not a single-story creature.
Right, because what it's mapping is the 7 planes of the system. The physical, the astral, the mental, and then the ones most of us mostly know as words. The Buddhic, the Atmic, the Monadic, on up to the divine. And the human being stretched across the whole thing.
Across all 7, yeah. That's the premise. We're sort of an inhabitant of the whole building, just mostly asleep on the upper floors. And if you do have the chart in front of you, look at its edges, because the 2 best details live there. Down the right-hand side, 3 printed brackets, monad, triad, personality, grouping the planes into exactly the 3 stories we're about to walk. And running up the entire left edge, 1 long label holding all 7 planes at once, the cosmic physical plane.
Which is fact 3 from last episode, printed sideways. Our whole ladder, top to bottom, 1 plane, from the cosmic side. The chart just says so, right there in the margin.
In the margin, the whole cosmology. Never skip the edges of a diagram.
So walk us up the building.
Right, so her opening line there is that the constitution of man is basically threefold. 3 of you, sort of stacked. At the very top, which she calls the monad, pure spirit. And she gives it the most familiar name she can find, the Father in heaven.
That's quite something. That phrase everyone knows from the prayer. In this system, it's pointing at the highest part of your own being.
Yeah, and that's very deliberate. And she says this monad reflects the 3 aspects of the Godhead itself. Will, or power, that's the Father aspect. Love, wisdom, the Son. And active intelligence, the Holy Spirit. So the pattern of the Divine Trinity is stamped right into the deepest part of you.
As above, so below again. First page of the chart, and the law of correspondences is already doing its thing.
Already working, yeah. But here's the line about the monad that stops you. She says, it is only contacted at the final initiations, when man is nearing the end of his journey and is perfected.
Hang on, so the truest thing about you, the actual you, the spirit, that's the part you meet last?
Last, after everything. That's the claim.
That's, that's almost painful when you sit with it. The whole path, lifetimes of it, in the core of your own being is the final door.
Although, think about what it also means. The thing at the end of the path was never somewhere else. It's been in the building the whole time. You're not traveling to some distant reward. You're traveling inward, floor by floor.
Yeah, okay, that helps. Floor 2 then.
Floor 2. The way she puts it, the monad reflects itself in the ego. And quick note, because this trips people up, she does not mean ego the way we use it now, the vanity thing, the self importance thing. In this vocabulary, the ego is the higher self, the individuality, the soul, basically, the part of you that persists from life to life.
Right. When Bailey says ego, think soul.
Think soul, exactly. And the ego is also threefold, the pattern again. Spiritual will, which is Atma, intuition, which is Buddhi, and she glosses that one as love wisdom, the Christ principle, and higher mind, higher manas, the abstract mind.
Atma, Buddhi, Manas. The classic triad. Anyone who's spent time in the theosophical literature has met those three.
Old friends, hopefully. And here's the part of the ego section that I find really encouraging. She says the ego begins to make its power felt in advanced men, and increasingly on the probationary path, until, by the third initiation, the control of the lower self by the higher is perfected.
Why encouraging?
Because begins to make its power felt is describing something a lot of people already know from the inside, that quiet pull towards something better than your usual self, the sense of being nudged. She's saying that's not imagination. That's the second floor waking up.
The nudge has an address now.
The nudge has an address.
And then the ego, in its turn, reflects itself downward one more time into the personality, the lower self, physical plane man, as she puts it. And that's threefold too, of course. A mental body, lower manas, the everyday thinking mind, the one doing your to-do list. An emotional body, the astral in the old language,
Mm-hmm.
and the physical body, which she counts as dual, by the way, the dense body you can see, and the etheric body, the energy double underneath it. And side note, if that etheric double has your attention, we did a whole series on it. Arthur Powell's book, The Etheric Double. The entire energy anatomy, piece by piece. Worth a listen after this one.
Very much the companion piece, yeah. So there's the whole building. Monad, ego, personality, spirit, soul, body, with each one a reflection of the one above.
And that word reflection is doing a lot of work there, isn't it? Because it means the person listening to this right now, the one with the schedule and the moods and the worries, that's a reflection of a reflection, twice removed from what you really are.
Twice removed and still recognizably the same pattern, which is either humbling or thrilling, depending on the day, honestly.
Both. It's like, okay, the analogy that helped me. It's an actor playing a character, wearing a costume. The monad is the actor, untouched, whatever happens on stage. The ego is the character, and the character develops through the play. That's the point of the play. And the personality, the body, the moods, the Monday feelings, that's the costume.
And nothing that happens to the costume ever harms the actor.
Nothing. The costume gets worn out, gets replaced. The character carries on. Life after life.
That's the picture. And then she closes the section with one sentence that is basically the thesis of the entire book, so let's not rush past it. Here's how she puts it. The aim of evolution is to bring man to the realization of the egoic aspect and to bring the lower nature under its control.
Realize the soul. Let the soul run the show.
That's the whole aim. Everything else in this book, the hierarchy, the path, the ceremony, all of it, is in service of that one sentence. Right. Chapter 2, Initiation Defined.
And she opens with a bit of a forecast. She says the question of initiation is coming more and more before the public. And then, before many centuries pass, the old mysteries will be restored. There will be an inner body within the church of the period, whose nucleus is already forming. And the first initiation will become exoteric, meaning the taking of the first initiation will be the most sacred ceremony of the church, performed openly, at stated periods.
And in the ritual of the Masons, too, she adds. Those ready for the first initiation would be publicly admitted to the lodge.
Now we're 100 years into that forecast, so
So we treat it the way she asked us to treat everything. It's her statement, made in 1922, and a century on, it's still a forecast. It goes on the same shelf as the rest. Hypothesis, tested inwardly. What matters for us is what it says about where she believed all this is heading. The mysteries coming out of hiding, step by step.
Fair. Okay, so then she does the thing I wish more writers in this space did. She stops and defines her words. Because her point is, we use these terms so glibly: initiation, wisdom, knowledge, the probationary path. Everyone says them, and almost nobody means anything precise by them.
And she puts in this little disclaimer first, which I love, given everything from last episode. She says, the subject is so big that to deal with it adequately, you'd have to write from the viewpoint of an initiate. And when that's not the case, whatever gets said may be reasonable, logical, interesting, suggestive, but not conclusive.
So even the definitions come with the house warning label on them. Test everything.
Always. Okay, the word itself. Initiation, from two Latin words, in, into, and ire, to go into. The making of a beginning, an entrance.
Just that, an entrance into something.
In its widest sense, an entrance into the spiritual life or into a fresh stage of that life. The first step and then each succeeding step on what she calls the path of holiness. But then she sharpens it, and this is where the scale of the claim shows up. She says, the person who has taken the first initiation has technically passed out of the human kingdom into the superhuman. And she gives it a precedent. Just as, way back, we passed out of the animal kingdom into the human at individualization.
Individualization being that moment, eons back, when Animal Man received the spark of mind and became us. The book tells that whole story properly in a couple of chapters, but okay, let's sit with the claim for a second, because it's enormous. She's saying there's a step available to a human being that is the same order of event as becoming human was in the first place.
The same order of event, a kingdom change. And for the first time, in her words, such a person has the right to be called a spiritual man, in the technical sense of the word. He's entering the fifth and final stage of our current fivefold evolution.
Fifth of five. So the kingdoms: mineral, vegetable, animal, human, and then this, the spiritual kingdom, the fifth.
The fifth kingdom, exactly. Which the book comes back to properly in a couple of chapters, because the hierarchy itself is basically the fifth kingdom in nature. But yeah, that's the ladder the first initiation steps you onto.
And nobody notices. That's the part I keep snagging on. A kingdom-level event, and the person presumably, still does the dishes and pays their taxes and stands in the queue at the post office.
And the book would say, that's exactly right. The change is in consciousness, not in costume. Which is why the world so often misses its initiates entirely. We'll get to that properly in a later episode. What an initiate looks like from the outside. It's very sobering.
Right, and then to place the whole journey, she brings in the three halls, which might be my favorite image in this half of the chapter.
Go on, they're yours.
So the picture is a person gropes their way through the hall of ignorance for many ages. Then they go to school in the hall of learning. And then eventually they enter university, the hall of wisdom. And when they've passed through that, they graduate. And the degree they take, I love this, Master of Compassion.
Not master of knowledge, not master of power.
Compassion. That's the qualification the universe is examining for. And she describes what living in each hall is like, which is where it gets personal. In the hall of ignorance, the form controls. Matter has the upper hand. You are, her word, polarized in the personality. The lower self is just running things, and you don't question it.
Yeah.
In the hall of learning, the higher self, the ego, starts striving to dominate that form. And there's this line in there that I think is maybe the most relatable sentence in the whole chapter. She says a point of equilibrium gets reached, where the man is controlled entirely by neither.
Controlled entirely by neither. Yeah. That might be the most honest description of the human condition I've read in a while. Too awake to just follow the appetites in peace, not strong enough yet for the soul to actually steer.
The tug of war years, which, let's be honest, is where most of us live. And knowing the tradition, that stage isn't a failure state. That's the curriculum working. The discomfort is the education, like that restlessness people describe, where the old satisfactions stop satisfying, but the new life hasn't arrived yet. In this map, that's not something going wrong. That's the second floor pulling, and the ground floor pulling back.
The discomfort is the education. Yeah. And then in the Hall of Wisdom, the way she describes it, the ego dominates in the three lower worlds. And in increasing degree, the inherent divinity assumes the mastery. The tug of war just ends, sort of. Not because one side gave up, more that the whole person finally agrees about who leads.
Okay, so that's the where. Then she does the three words: knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And I'll say up front, I thought I knew what these meant, and this section reorganized me a bit.
It does that. So, knowledge first. Knowledge is the product of the Hall of Learning. It's the sum total of human discovery and experience. Everything the five senses can register and the intellect can then correlate, diagnose, define. It's what we have mental certainty about, what we can establish by experiment. The compendium of the arts and sciences, she calls it.
So all of science, all of scholarship, every library on Earth.
All of it, knowledge. And crucially, it concerns the form side of things, the material side of evolution, matter, in the systems, in the planet, in the three worlds, in our bodies. That's knowledge's whole domain, and it's properly vast, but that's also its boundary.
Okay, so wisdom then. Wisdom is the product of the Hall of Wisdom. And where knowledge deals with the form, wisdom has to do with the life inside the form. The development of the life within it, the progress of the spirit through all those changing vehicles, the expansions of consciousness that follow one another, life after life. And there's this phrase of hers that pins it. Wisdom deals with the essence of things and not with the things themselves.
The essence, not the things. So knowledge studies the costume, wisdom knows the actor.
Right. And she gets specific about how wisdom operates, too. It's the intuitive apprehension of truth, apart from the reasoning faculty. The innate perception that can tell the false from the true, the real from the unreal. It doesn't arrive at truth by argument, it just recognizes it. Which everyone has felt, right? You hear a thing, and something in you goes, yes, before you could ever defend it in a debate. That's what she's pointing at.
That's the faculty. And she gives this definition that's worth hearing close to word for word. Wisdom is the realization of the kingdom of God within, and the apprehension of the kingdom of God without in the solar system, inner and outer, both. And then one more. She describes it as the gradual blending of the paths of the mystic and the occultist, the rearing of the temple of wisdom upon the foundation of knowledge.
Oh, that's good. So it's not knowledge versus wisdom at all. The temple needs the foundation. You don't get to skip the learning.
You don't get to skip the learning. And then she gives you this run of contrasts, almost like aphorisms. And they're so clean, I'll just give you a few straight. Wisdom is the science of the spirit, as knowledge is the science of matter. Knowledge is separative and objective. Wisdom is synthetic and subjective. Knowledge divides. Wisdom unites. Knowledge differentiates. Wisdom blends.
Knowledge divides, wisdom unites. That one's going to stay with me. Because you can feel it, can't you? Knowing more about something usually means cutting it into finer and finer pieces. And wisdom moves exactly the other way. It keeps seeing, oh, this is one thing. It was all one thing.
It was always one thing. And then the third word, the bridge, understanding. And her definition here is precise. So, roughly, her words, understanding is the faculty of the thinker in time to appropriate knowledge as the foundation for wisdom.
The thinker in time, meaning us, in incarnation, in the middle of the story.
Us, mid-story, which I find kind of moving, because it's the one definition of the three that's written for someone who doesn't have the whole picture yet. Wisdom sees the end. Knowledge counts the pieces. Understanding is what you do standing in the middle, working with both.
The faculty for people who are still in it.
Still in it, yeah. Understanding is what lets you take the things of form and adapt them to the life of the spirit. It takes the flashes of inspiration that come down from the Hall of Wisdom and links them to the facts from the Hall of Learning. It's the part of you that makes the two talk to each other.
So, like, knowledge is everything you've gathered about a person, where they grew up, what they like, their whole file. Wisdom is really knowing them, that direct thing that no amount of file ever adds up to. And understanding is what happens in a real friendship, where each new fact deepens the knowing, and the knowing tells you what the facts mean.
That's a lovely way in, yeah. And she compresses the whole thing into one line at the end. Wisdom concerns the one self. Knowledge deals with the not self. And the understanding is the point of view of the ego, the relation between them. So there's your three. And notice how neatly it maps back onto the chart from the start of the episode. Knowledge for the personality's world, wisdom for the spirit, understanding sitting between, exactly where the ego sits.
Same shape at every scale, again. Oh, and one small housekeeping thing, because careful readers will notice it. She promised 4 words at the top of the chapter: initiation, wisdom, knowledge, and the probationary path. And the 4th one, the probationary path, she doesn't define here. She saves it. It gets a whole chapter of its own later in the book, and honestly, it earns it.
It really does. That's one of the most personal chapters in the whole thing, and we'll give it a proper episode when we get there. Okay, so look at what we're actually carrying out of this episode. A 3-story picture of the human being, 3 halls the whole journey passes through, and 3 kinds of knowing. That's the entire toolkit the book needs. And honestly, from here on, it starts using it fast.
And it all clicks into last episode, right? That sentence we kept: development is a succession of expansions of consciousness. Well, this chart is the thing consciousness expands through. The expansions are the climb up this exact building.
That's the connection, yeah. The map and the movement.
Because next episode is the second half of this same chapter, and it's the one where she takes the word initiation apart properly. What those expansions of consciousness actually are, where the ceremony happens, and the thing I know I keep needing to hear, what the ceremony does and doesn't do. Because her claim is that the ceremony doesn't make you anything. It recognizes what you've already become.
The exam that certifies, not confers. And there's a word waiting at the center of it: at one meant. Which is one of those places where she takes a term everybody thinks they know and shows you what it might have meant all along. That one's worth coming back for on its own, honestly.
And if this kind of walkthrough is speaking to you, by the way, this show is part of a growing family of shows over at Pillar 5 Media.
Different hosts, different books, all of us taking something deep and trying to make it feel a bit more like a conversation with a friend.
You'll find all of them at pillar5media.com.
And that's pillar, then the number 5 as a numeral, media.com. Thanks for spending this time with us. Go find that chart in the front of the book if you've got a copy. It reads differently now.
It's a map of you, after all. Catch you in the next one.
Bye for now.